Hi, everyone. So for today's topic, we'll be discussing selecting and defining a problem. Okay, so every great nursing study begins with a question, but how do we know which questions are worth asking? In the clinical settings, we usually encounter countless challenges, from patient safety concerns to gaps in communication and care delivery. But the key to impactful research lies in recognizing which of these challenges can be transformed into a focused, researchable problem. And that is what we are going to discuss today. So this will be our class objective. So by the end of this chapter, you will be able to distinguish between a problem statement and the purpose of a study. So that would be the first part of your research proposal, which belongs to chapter 1. Identify several key characteristics of a good problem statement. Identify a problem statement in a journal article. So by this time, at least you have to know or you have already an idea of how to gather all your evidences. And then cite different sources of ideas for selecting a research problem. So that would include searching the internet for peer-reviewed journal that will support your study. Describe the purpose of a literature review. So from chapter 1, so the literature review would be part of chapter 2. And then identify the characteristics of a relevant literature review. We'll also try to differentiate the sources where we gather those literature and related studies. And then compare advantages and disadvantages of print and computer database sources for searching the literature. So before, we are used to going to the library to review hard copies of textbook, but now we have a very large database, computer database for these resources, which are very accessible to everyone. Okay, so let's start with the problem statement. So when we say problem statement, this is the direction for the research design. So in short, we identify what is the problem usually related to the field of research in nursing. This is usually stated at the beginning of a research report or journal article. So in this case, it's usually found in the introduction part of the study. It describes the problem and focuses on what is being studied. It also justifies the study by usually citing the background. No? Why, as the researcher, why do you choose to study that particular topic? About the problem and its contributions to practice, its significance, yeah, to theory, or even both. So in your textbook, you will find this excerpt. So this is an example of a problem statement. So as mentioned, it's the foundation of the research design. So it's very important to select the correct problem statement. So it usually consists of several paragraphs identifying a significant researchable problem. So in this excerpt, you can pause this video and then try to read first the paragraphs. No, but you will be able to identify this part. No, so according to the American Cancer Society, breast cancer is the number one cancer diagnosed in women today. So 1 in 8 women will have breast cancer during their lifetime. So in a report titled Cancer Facts and Figures, although this one is a relatively old study already, so the ACS estimated that 240,510 women were newly diagnosed with breast cancer. I think that would be higher up to this day, and that more than 40,000 of women, all ages, will die from breast cancer. Okay, so within the first few sentences, the authors of this study were able to identify an area of research, and that is how women with breast cancer can find meaning in their lives throughout the recovery process. And they also outlined pertinent variable. Yan. So according to Coward and Reed, through self-transcendence, women with breast cancer can be healed and find meaning in their lives throughout the recovery process. Okay, so you could try reviewing other research studies and try to find out what is the problem statement. So it doesn't, when we say problem statement, it's not really formed as a question, especially when you are already reading the introduction part of the study. Okay, so we have to follow certain guidelines for selecting research problems. So number one, clients, nurses, and the medical community, and even the society will potentially benefit from the knowledge derived from the study. Again, number one consideration when selecting the problem would be that it should be significant. It should be useful, okay, for those who will be reading or those who will be included in the study. Results should also be applicable to nursing practice, to education, and or administration. So we have to utilize the study. Okay? And results will be theoretically relevant. So it should add up to the knowledge base of nursing. And then findings will lend support to untested theoretical assumptions, challenge an existing theory, or clarify a conflict in the literature. So we'll discuss more about this later. And then findings will potentially formulate or alter nursing practices or policies, but of course for the betterment of those policies. No, so the goal here is always to seek improvement, to always base our actions through scientific evidence. Okay. So here in problem statement, you have to remember three basic characteristics. Okay, so I want you to remember those three. So number one, it should be researchable. That's why it's called nursing research. So the idea should be the problem statement or the problem should be researchable. So meaning it can be investigated by collecting and analyzing data. So it should also be able to attempt to make conclusions based on data or information concerning key concepts. For example, when you think of hourly rounding, you have experience or doing your clinical duties, but they also do clinical rounds. So the problem that could be formulated here would be, does hourly rounding reduce patient falls in hospital setting? So when you think about it, is it researchable? Yes. So this can be studied. We could collect data. We could compare outcomes. For example, you try to compare if you do hourly rounding, every 4 hours rounding, or once a shift rounding. Yan. So would there be differences in the number of patient falls? And then from that, you can draw conclusions. Okay, so that's just one example. Also, when you look at problem statements, you would see the term operational definitions. Okay, so they are clear-cut statements of how variables are measured. So you will discuss further about the variables in the study. But the variables are those statements or words that are being studied or measured. No? So for example, knowledge, the attitudes, and risk-taking behaviors of the participants of the study. But what I want you to remember is, in your study, when you say operational definitions, the definition should not be coming from what is from the dictionary. Okay? As the researcher, you have to be the one to provide the definition based on how it is used in your study. Okay? Yeah. So, not all problems in nursing can or should be studied through research. No, some issues are ethical and philosophical in nature, are not researchable. So, which means that there is no right or wrong answer. So, we could not conclude a specific answer for that. So, these are important to discuss. Yes. but they don't fit into the kind of research that looks for measurable outcomes or evidence-based solutions. So for example, the meaning or purpose of something like compassion, the true role of compassion in nursing. Because this would explore different beliefs. It could be based on different values, different cultures, which do not lead to testable hypotheses or measurable data. So instead of solving a problem, it could even create conflicts, based on the participants or even the researchers' own values. Another one would be ethical problems. Example, so because ethical problems usually ask, what is the right thing to do? So what if there is no really right or wrong thing to do? For example, should nurses be allowed to assist in euthanasia or even prolonging the dying process with appropriate measures? So this type of question, especially when we deal of euthanasia, it's a moral question. So people may have strong opinions, but again, there's no single correct answer that research can prove. So also, if it has something to do with considering the patient's quality of life. So that would be very, very difficult to prove or disprove. So let's try to avoid ethical problems, even though they are very, maybe very intriguing for you, and or you might be interested in doing that. Okay. The second characteristic, again, the first one is researchable. The second one is significance. No, I've mentioned this earlier. It should be something that we can utilize, we can apply. Okay, so is the problem an important one? It may not be important for certain groups, but if it can be utilized by other groups, then that's still good. Okay, so benefit with the certain groups of clients, of students, or medical or healthcare workers would benefit from that. Would it lead to practical applications? Okay, so it's not enough that we were able to publish a theory. It should something that we could disseminate, and it should be something that can be used. Okay, so theoretical relevance, and then formulate or alter nursing practice or policies. One example. So despite existing protocols, many hospitalized older adults, let's go back to falls, also still experience preventable falls during nighttime hours. No? So if you are that nurse working in that, for example, a ward in a hospital, you would see that there could possibly a gap in the effectiveness of the current fall prevention strategies or policies implemented in your hospital. Yeah. So you ask the question, is this significant? Of course. Yes, falls among older adults in hospitals can lead to serious injuries, and it would imply longer hospital stays, and at the same time increase healthcare costs. No, because as nurses, we are directly involved in the patient safety. So these issues is something that could affect both your care quality and professional responsibility. And then you ask the question, would that benefit someone or something? So will solving this lead to practical applications? Absolutely. So research could lead to improve fall prevention strategies, and such as, let's just like the solution earlier, better rounding schedules, make it more frequent, or any, sometimes it could also be the environmental adjustments based on what you have gathered or collected from your data. Is it relevant theoretically? Yes. Also, findings could support changes in hospital protocols, and it could influence nurse staffing decisions. Maybe the reason for the increase in the fall incidents would be because there are only two nurses during the PM shift. That's why they weren't able to really monitor all the patients. And then also, it may also refine nursing theories, especially if it's something to do with the safety of the patient and patient-centered care. Okay, so that is for significance. The last characteristic would be feasibility. Okay, so variables must also be considered to determine whether a problem is appropriate for study. So meaning, your research study should be easy for you and convenient for you as well as the researcher. So as student researchers, maybe that would be something that you really need to consider, especially now that you only have one semester to complete the research proposal. Well, technically it's a year. So the selection of your research problem should really check out this one. Okay, so that's why most of the previous studies that we had, uh, the participants used were mostly student nurses because we have very limited time and chance to go to hospitals to conduct the study among maybe staff nurses or patients. Okay, so for example, nursing students, this is a very common scenario. Nursing students report high levels of anxiety before clinical rotations. I don't know if you've experienced that, which may affect their performance and learning outcomes. So let's try to look at the ease or convenience. The question would be, is the population accessible? So the target the target participants would be nursing students. When it comes to accessibility, yes, they are readily available in academic settings. You don't really need to contain your population within, for example, the international nursing program. You could go out and you could look into the different branches with the College of Nursing, and then we could interview them. Okay, so data collection tools, since the variable that you want to look at would be anxiety, there are a lot of tools available, readily made tools, yan, and performance rubrics that are easy to administer. Sometimes you could even do, for example, Google Forms. Yan, you could email them the survey forms and then retrieve the results. In terms of time and resources, yes, no, you could conduct a study over one semester, and then the following semester, you do the analysis of the findings. Yeah. So this problem, again, is feasible. Yan, because the variables are measurable, you can easily target your population. Very easy to do the data collection, and there is a reasonable time frame for you to complete the study. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So the timing, yan, if you only have a year to complete, yan, so the deadline or time allotment, the availability of the subject. Sometimes one thing that could also affect your data collection would be the willingness to cooperate. And for example, if you want to do um a group interview, for example, no, then sometimes the the same sometimes they might not have the same time, same location that they would agree with. So that could be a challenge. Cooperation, yan, permission from other institutions. So this could be a challenge if you will be conducting sometimes in the hospital. You have to secure permits, you have to write letters to their admins. And then ethical consideration, we have discussed all that. Facilities and equipment. So if there are any technical equipment and appropriate lab facilities. I have one example. There's one uh I think a nurse working in the community, and she wants to study the connection of or the ability of older adults to take care of themselves if they are continuously communicating via cell phone with their relatives. Yeah, so because the key what do you call this, the key intervention there is, the for example, the face to face video, I mean the video call, with someone, the nurse or the researcher um had to buy cell phones for all the participants. So if you are rich enough to do that, you can do so, but that is something that you have to consider, the availability, technological requirements if needed, and so on. And also the experience. So if this is your first time doing a study, then I would suggest not going into the very complicated problems. Yeah. So you need to have at least prior knowledge or experience, something that you're interested in, something that you have experienced before. And then, of course, just like what I have said, money. And the literature costs, especially if you need to, some of the resources, the database that we have, you have to have subscriptions to be able to download the full text. And sometimes yung photocopy of the materials that could also be costly. Personal cost, if you need to travel going to one hospital to another, that could also be one. The subject cost. Although as much as possible, we do not recommend you paying someone to be the participant. Sometimes it could be as simple as giving them like food, no? For example, you invited them for a group interview or an individual interview, then you could offer them some tokens, but as much as possible, not give them money. So the it should be voluntarily their participation. And then of course the supplies. And then very important is you have to be interested in what you're going to study. Ayun, without your interest, it would be very difficult for you to really continue. Maybe chapter 1, you're already giving up. Okay? So again, let's review the good problem statement should have or should be, again, researchable. What's next? Okay, significant. And then the last one, it should be feasible. So please remember this three. Oh, this is usually asked in your examination. So after problem statement, we now go to purpose statements. As I've mentioned, the problem and the purpose statement are two different things. Okay? So when we say purpose statement, this specifies the overall goal and intent of the research while clarifying the knowledge to be gained. So this is usually a single statement. Unlike the problem statement, usually there are citations regarding statistics, and but the problem statement is usually or a single statement. Separate paragraph is usually devoted to the purpose statement. In some journal articles, if the problem statement is in the beginning, the purpose statement is usually at the end of the final paragraph of either the introduction or the review of literature, or usually the synthesis. Okay, so this one is an example again from your textbook. So you could pause this video or read the entire paragraph. Okay, but the purpose statement, as mentioned, is usually at the end of the final paragraph. In this case, I'm sorry, that would be this one. So the purpose of the study was to test the feasibility and examine the effects of a culturally tailored intervention for Mexican Americans with type 2 diabetes. It's very easy to identify because it is usually stated as the purpose of the study. Okay, so the term purpose is already there. So you can easily identify them. Yeah, this is stated objectively and indicates the type of study to be conducted. So it could either be written as declarative statements, just like in that example. It could be written as a question, or mostly in quantitative studies, it is usually written as a hypothesis. Okay, again, it's very easy to identify. Yeah, if it's a declarative statement, it starts with the purpose of the study is to, or the aim of the study is to. So that's the purpose. Okay. So let's continue with the sources and selection of research problems. So you might be asking, how do we find a problem? Yeah. So it could start by looking at your own environment. If, for example, you are already a nurse working in the hospital, the best source of research problem is within your practice. Okay, so offers an important source of take note of that, clinically relevant research problems because you are there, you are working. So more or less, you already have an idea of what could be the gaps from the what is known and what is being practiced in your institution. Observational and analytical skills that maximize each opportunity for discovering important questions and problems. In this case, because you are still a student nurse, it could be something that you have observed during your clinical duty. It could be if you have been in the community, you could also include or you could also look at the common problems encountered. Yeah, let's take, for example, a scenario. So let's fast forward no, that you are already working as a staff nurse in a medical surgical ward. So you've noticed that the post-op patients, they frequently request pain medications later than expected. I think we have seen some of those patients in one of the hospitals that we've been to. During the night shift nurses, patients would come into the nurses station and would ask for meds. And even though pain assessments are documented regularly. So based on your observations, you could start asking, why are patients delaying their pain medication requests? And is the current pain assessment method or the tool that you are using in your hospital, is it still effective? Or could it be something related to their cultural beliefs? Yeah, because some of these patients do not explicitly express their pain. So if you would try to reflect on those patterns, then you could come up with a problem statement. Current pain assessment protocols in your hospital is not or may not adequately capture the post-op pain experiences among patients, especially during the evening shifts. And then you could look for sources of literature. You could check the documentation of the patients, their charts. Yan, you can look at clinical guidelines and other previous studies. Okay, so that's just one example, but I'm sure you've seen a lot of gaps that you know based on theory, and then what some of the healthcare workers are doing in the actual clinical setting. And another source of problem would be literature review. So you were reading, for example, some journals and notice, is this correct? Is this still applicable right now? So because it can generate ideas for possible areas of research and it could identify certain problems from previously published studies. And so this example is from your textbook. No? So maybe you are wondering, like nursing procedures, like injection administration, wound care, and patient positioning, those are standard, no? If you will be checking your Taylor textbook, those are standard practices. But have you ever asked, no, how was this protocol developed? How did they come up with those step-by-step procedure? So let's take this example for by Beye and Nicole. Examine the practice of administering medications via the IM route. So a critical review of the literature revealed that the proper techniques for administering IM injections were non-research based and reflected myths, tradition, and out-of-date recommendations. This is a very old study. So an integrated review of the related literature dating from the 1920s. No, it means those are their practices before the study was conducted. And then pertinent research was reviewed and critiqued. A research-based protocol for the procedure was then developed and further areas of research were identified. So which means from there, from myths, traditions, and outdated recommendations, they were able to discover a safer, more effective practice and challenge the long-held assumptions of their injection practices. Yeah, that's also it works the same as well with yung wound care practices, patient positioning. So they had to challenge a previous for example, a previous recommendations to come up with a more evidence-based solutions to those practices. Okay, another one or another source of possible problems could be theories. So, because when we say theories, these are concerned with more general, it's more abstract, it's not really applied directly. So, reading theories developed in nursing and other disciplines can provide research problems through a deductive process. So, when we say deductive process from a general concept, no, we deduce, we um make it more specific. So from general, we make it specific to make it more applicable to the practice. So this one is an example again from your book, Robinson's study on grief. Yeah, so what the researcher did was to make use of a descriptive correlational study of widows during the second year of bereavement. So this study use Roy's adaptation model. I hope you still remember who Sister Callista Roy is. And but anyway, this theory states different adaptive systems that makes patients under stress, for example, respond to internal and external stimuli. So it only means that the researcher based his or her study from this adaptation model. Okay. So what I want you to remember would be nursing theories, they guide our practice. So they guide research, but they're not like what was mentioned, they are not set in stone. So meaning because healthcare evolves, we already have the new technologies, we have new discoveries. So as care delivery and patient outcome. So if you're a student nurse and you think you can challenge Nightingale's environment theory, yeah, then you could do so. You could challenge this existing theory, could question, and then you could, it's not really rejecting the theory, but more of refining it. So, for example, si Nightingale, and because during Nightingale's time, it would be more of the actual environment of the patient. But right now, we have virtual environments, we have different types of healthcare settings. So how do we adapt or refine that environmental theory in terms of those changes? Okay, so we know how therapeutic communication goes, but right now, our nurse-patient relationship could even extend up to the digital world or remote setting. So how do we use Hildegard Peplo's interpersonal relationship theory to refine that? Okay, so those things, no, those theories could be sources of research problem. Okay. Next would be replication. So in research, we can do replication, but not duplication. Okay. So duplication of research procedures in a second study to determine whether earlier results can be repeated. And it provides an excellent opportunity for researchers to discover results that conflict with previous research or disconfirm some aspect of an established theory. So be careful. Huh? So duplication is not allowed because when we say duplication, it would be the exact copy. You are just repeating what a previous research study did. But when we say replication, we could tweak some of could be some of the participants, some of the interventions to make it our own. Okay. So for example, do I have an example here? Yeah. So for example, there are already a lot. What can you infer from this picture? There are already a lot of studies about breastfeeding. Okay. So if you want to make it your own, then you could select specific set of individual or participants. No? So you could alter some of the variables in the study and look at the factors that affect the duration of breastfeeding if you want to look into adolescent mothers. Okay. Another one, we already have a lot of studies concerning older adults. Yan. And then some suggestions would be instead of looking at the physiological effects among older adults, then why not look at their psychosocial adjustment after a disease or after a diagnosis. And then we have, oh, right now you are currently taking up maternal and child. So you try to look at some problems you might identify during your clinical rotation. In the community, you could look at the literacy of those mothers receiving prenatal care and how it affects the result of their pregnancy. Yeah, so we do not only focus on patients, we could also look into the other healthcare providers, our co-nurses, yeah, then check on their communication. Yeah, there are already a lot of studies also about burnouts. So what can you do to change some of those studies? And then lastly, if you're also interested in mental health nursing, then you could look into that topic also. Okay. So next, review of related literature. So as I've mentioned, the review of related literature in a 5-chapter study. This is part of your chapter 2. So the entire chapter 2 of your study is dedicated to the review of related literature and studies. Okay. So what would be the definition, purpose, and scope? Yet involves identification and analysis of relevant publications that contain information pertaining to the research problem. Okay, so it discovers what is already known about the problem because we are looking at those previously published studies. It provides the researchers with important information concerning what has been done and what needs to be done. Okay. Yeah. So you have to follow these guidelines to determine what is appropriate for the literature review because the tendency is we want to include everything because we have read a lot of information from the internet. Okay. So we have to narrow down. So you have to avoid the temptation to include everything. So you really need to skim into the study. Yes, because a well-defined literature review is preferred to one that contains many articles that are just somewhat related to the problem. Okay, it's better if it's directly related to that. Because usually they would provide substantial amounts of literature related to the problem. And another common misconception is that the significance of a problem is related to how much literature is available. That is, or this is not so. Okay, so in some areas of study, a lack of research-based articles somehow increases its value because when you look at it, when there are already a lot of literature about that particular study, it means it's been well researched already. What could be something new that it could offer, like hand washing. Yeah, there's a lot of students who want to do or to search or research about hand washing. But when you search the internet, there are already a lot of studies, a lot of literature talking about hand washing. Okay, so that could be one thing that you could also consider. If there is not much study to see, maybe it could be something relevant, no, because there's not much known about that topic. So what are the purpose? As I've mentioned, it determines what is known. It looks into the gaps, inconsistencies. It also discovers unanswered questions and about the subject, a concept, or a problem. It describes the strengths and weaknesses of the science, of methods of inquiry, and instruments used in earlier work. It also discovers conceptual traditions used to examine problems. It's like the previous example before in safe injection practices. So they were able to compare traditional practices and then came up with evidence-based solutions. Generates useful research questions or problems for the discipline. So there are a lot of purpose, no? So determines an appropriate research design, no? So for example, you are interested again in studying the psychosocial impact of a cardiac event among older adults. So you've seen that one research problem analyze the data by doing quantitative studies. No, but you see, when we look at psychosocial impact, sometimes it is better expressed if it's qualitative. So meaning when we do interviews, when we use open-ended questions instead of patients using surveys. Okay, so you could replicate the study but use a different design. So that's one purpose. Yeah, so that's also for number 8. And then promotes the development of protocols, of policies. And then lastly, uncovers a new practice or interventions or gain support for changing a practice intervention. So for example, going back to the earlier rounding schedule. So your hospital currently is implementing every 2-hour rounding schedule to check for patients. But because of the study that you have um, undergone, no, or you have collected some evidences that it's not enough, then the hospital will change its policies. Instead of doing every 2 hours, they will now do every hour. So then it helps reduce the risk or number of falls in among the patients. Okay, so when you are searching for relevant literature, this is very important. So as early as now, I would like you to start looking for relevant literature and studies. Yan. So how many years back should you go? So when conducting a literature search for a nursing research problem, it's generally recommended to focus on sources published within the last 5 years. So if today is to 2025, so the oldest that you could get would be around 2020. Okay, so we should not be seeing any studies. Yan. According to Gonzalez 2019. Okay, that's already unacceptable. At least start 2020. Okay. And then, ano ba? Except, of course, for example, if you will be referring for some textbooks or theories, for example, if it has been written 1700s, 1800s, if it's something that is relevant, then you could still make use of that. Okay? Yeah. But mostly for research studies published, it should be 5 years. So what literature should you search and how many articles? So an adequate search typically includes around 20 scholarly articles and 20 research studies, both local and international, as much as possible. Okay, so because it provides a balanced foundation of theoretical and empirical evidence. When we say scholarly articles, it could be from textbooks. Okay, when we say research studies, it would be actual studies conducted by researchers. Okay, and then do you go beyond the library sources of information? Yes, so it's important to go beyond what is available in the databases. And you have to know how to critically analyze whether that online platform provides you with empirical or um factual evidence, because when you look at the internet, there are already a lot of sources like blogs, health, there are a lot of health websites. But I will show you in the next slide what are those reliable sources of information. So number one, nursing journals. No, we have the Philippine Nurses Association journals, the American Heart Association journals. So those are reliable sources. No, they also provide the latest information, but some would require subscription. Okay. Then the preferred mode for communicating the latest results of a research study. Okay. So if you have conducted a study in the future um in your area, in your clinical setting, then you could submit that study and then have it published in these journals. No? Referee journal, so these are peer-reviewed journals, empirical literature, yes, more specifically scientific literature, and then theoretical literature would be usually from textbooks. Then other sources of information, primary versus secondary. So when we say primary, so they are written by the person who developed the theory. No? So if you will look at Notes on Nursing by Florence Nightingale, so that's a primary source because she is the one who actually wrote the article or the document. When we say secondary source, this is a brief description of a study, like written by a person other than the original researcher. So usually if I would be summarizing what is that in the Notes on Nursing of Florence Nightingale, then I will publish that, then I am the secondary source. Okay? Then for databases and indexes, usually you're familiar with electronic database like Ovid, Paperchase, and Silver Platter. But again, some of this comes with a subscription to be able to download the full text online. But if you just want to look at the abstract, usually they provide the abstract. And then indexes, I don't know if there are still libraries who use indexes, but I think in our library they still do. Yan. But there are also hospital literature index. So they usually contain several volumes. Then for abstracts, nursing abstracts, psychological abstracts, and so on. Okay. Yeah, but again, if you will be including that research study, that published study in your own research, you have to download the complete article, not only the abstract. Because it will not give you the total picture of the study if it will just be the abstract. Although the results are there, the conclusions are there. And then you could just pause this video and look at the different sources of information. And this one are print databases. You have your electronic. I'm sure you've heard of Signal, Medline, yan, PsycInfo. And this one is from the APA. And they also have very good published studies here. There are also health-related internet directories. So you try to avoid using health blogs, and you have to download the actual studies. Healthy People, there's already Healthy People 2030. Medscape, usually there are a lot here. And then you have your NLM, NIH, and then from CDC. Usually government websites would also have, especially if you want to look at statistics, world database, you can look at that. For PMC, I don't know if you have tried accessing this. This is a good source of complete and then complete studies, usually medical studies related to nursing, medicine, and they can also download the full text. Yan. For PMC, for PubMed, mostly abstracts. Yeah, this one is another one. And then if you are not yet familiar with this website, you can actually download the citations for your reference through the different formats, no? But what we are going to use would be the APA. So you just copy paste this and then put it in your reference. Okay. So I will be checking, no, how you properly cite and use the APA in your paper. Okay, so we're almost done. So rules for searching the literature. So begin by planning how you will conduct your literature review. All action starts with a good plan. So gather the recommended articles, skim over them, yan. And then as early as identifying the article, you record their full citations. Meaning you record the one that I showed earlier, the full reference, because sometimes one problem that students encounter would be they don't know where to search. Although using the internet, you could just type the title and then you will see. No? But to lessen the work, yeah, you copy paste already the full citations. Then talk first with the reference librarian if you will be going to an actual library to help you with the retrieval systems. Arellano University also has um a an what do you call that? An internet based retrieval system that you can use. So you could go to the library and ask the librarian to give you um a library card number. Okay? Then plan to devote a considerable amount of time learning how each retrieval system works. Yeah, then think of your retrieval efforts as consisting of a series of stages. So it's not always read title and then download. No? So you again try not to include everything. Yeah. So example, let's try to apply this. The effect of nurse-led patient education and medication adherence in hypertensive adults. Yan. If you will try to follow your step-by-step retrieval process, you have to identify. So based on the topic that you have chosen, what are the keywords that you need to look for? Number one, nurse-led intervention. Number two, patient medication adherence. Yan, what else is here? Patient education, and then patient compliance, hypertension. Okay. So those are the keywords, so that you should find from the literature that you will be looking at. And then you could use PubMed. You could even use Google Scholar. That's also effective. There are a lot. You just need to know how to properly use it so that you could trim the trim down the the year, the type. You could input the keywords there. Next is you confirm. So confirm that the sources are relevant to your research problem. Yan, you go back to the keywords. Does this article has anything to do with nurse-led interventions? Are the population similar, hypertensive adults also? Does it also talk about medication adherence and so on? And then remove those article that are off topic or very general, no, like hypertension in all age groups. Okay. Then skim and screen. The easiest way to skim is to look at the abstract and the introduction. Because again, the abstract will already give you the result of the study. And you also look at the research design. And then next is retrieval. So once you have read the article, that's the time that you download. Okay, so download or save the full text. And I suggest you put folders. No, you create folders in your laptop so that you could easily group group your literature based on the topic. You organize, you learn how to organize your folders because those research studies you will also be using that in your analysis. Okay, and then lastly would be review. So read the full articles carefully because during the first part we haven't read, right? We haven't read the entire article. We just skim. So review the full article. Okay? Then keep track of all the words. Always take advantage of other people's work. And then please cite the authors properly. Okay, so record the complete citation, make sure that your notes are clearly your own. You have to know how to properly paraphrase so it will not be flagged as plagiarism. Yeah, so just to review again, identify the major ideas of the study. Yan, you list down the concepts or the keywords, then do an outline. So usually literature review would have a main heading and then a subheading. So you have to know how to outline your studies. Divide each major heading and then summarize the major findings of each study. Okay, so after you introduce the study, at the end of the paragraph for that heading, you have to have your own synthesis. Okay, I will be giving you some examples, or you can look at some of the finished or completed studies in the library. Okay, so that you will have an idea how literature study work. And then write an introductory paragraph. Summarize the findings for each group of studies. So you try to take note, try to compare and contrast all the studies that you have gathered. And for example, according to Gonzalez 2023, this idea is that, however, in one study conducted by, it stated that, or it compared. So you try to compare and contrast. You don't really always need to look for the similarity. What what would make it more in-depth would be the differences. Okay, then compile the entire literature, review, and scan. And usually at the end of the chapter 2, you have to have your own synthesis of all the findings. Okay? And the last part, you critic, the following questions serve as guide in critiquing literature. So this one, yeah, you just read this in your textbook. Usually, every end of the chapter, you will always find critiquing reviews of the literature. Okay, and that's the end of my lecture. Please answer the activity that follows this recorded lecture video. Thank you.